Everybody's goal, stopping nothing to get with it. Oh, in heaven you can't take what you own. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Vladimir Putin's number one enemy, Alexei Navalny, perishes in prison. I'm sure there's probably going to be a hashtag or two about this as well, that he didn't Navalny himself, but after suddenly perishing, and he fell down, collapsing on a walk. Something sounds pretty fishy about this, and of course there are accusations flying both ways. Most people have pretty much set up their mind that it may be, three-letter agencies involved, whether it be theirs or whether it be ours. Some that don't know anything about what's been going on between the two countries might go, oh, well, of course, Putin did it. But a lot of people are questioning that, especially on X and aka Twitter. A lot of folks just don't know what to believe anymore. Especially since this is really, really crazy timing on all of this. He essentially has no competition anymore, but did he ever? I mean, did Putin ever have to worry about Navalny taking his place? I guess maybe. But, he had him imprisoned. He was poisoned, all of these things. At this point, with him in prison, why would they do that? Or did Putin really do it? And is it because he thinks that something was going to happen? They were going to try to take him out and put Navalny in? Who knows? But Putin's top critic, Alexei Navalny, has perished in a whole Siberia prison. He could have just perished because it is a Siberian prison. Just hearing from general, rumor and pretty much every movie in history that's ever shown Siberia and prisons there says it's pretty much the worst prison in the world, or one of the top 10. So prison officials today said that the jailed Russian opposition leader, 47, collapsed inside the brutal Polar Wolf jail where he was being kept and could not be resuscitated. So what could this trigger? What does this mean? We'll talk about that. And the last 24 hours, we'll talk about what the president said about what Russia may have in space already. Says, don't worry, guys. Don't worry. If they do an EMP and if there's an EMP up there knocking out our satellites, don't worry. It's not going to actually hurt you. You're not going to be in pain. Just our satellites will. Don't worry. We'll just lose all communications. So don't panic. We'll see you in a minute. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Everybody's goal, stopping nothing to get with it. All right, on today's docket, Russia blames the West. We're going to talk about 100 plus arrested in Russia. JB talks the Russian EMP. Neutral Swiss boosting defense spending. Something very strange is happening there. They just all of a sudden added a whole bunch of millions to their war effort. Poland and Finland are hardening their borders. Nothing to see there. Is Moldova next? We have U.S. components in Russian drones. Red Sea carrier strike group in danger. We have Iran will reciprocate ship seizures, saying we'll do it back. Israel to blame Iran gas pipeline attack. And Pentagon updates bleak Ukraine defense. We have DOD's new underwater drones. We have Kim draws a new red line. And, of course, Putin calls for more babies. Trump lost over $350 million in court, and a massive illegal weapon stash in a California home. Was it a collector, or was somebody setting up for a base for soldiers that may or may not already be here? We'll talk about all of that on today's show. So let's bring in my co/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Fugle fam. I'm doing just fine.
Don't forget the mods. The mods do an awesome job of course, directing people where they need to go. Or if somebody goes, hey, what's the source for this? They're always very helpful. Also, they are just great creators in their own right, from writing books over on Amazon like Chance Paladin to making super edited, incredible hours of work into videos like Trinity. Wages World is covering all of the solar events, almost at 60,000. Go over and help him out over there. Ilea, funny videos, RGL, Rip Curl Readiness, prep content. Make sure to go check them out. Jammer One, Lisa Hall, and of course, CJ Blaze and Bones. So make sure to go check out all of our great mods. They're awesome people. And they are very, very incredible artists, creators, writers, everything else. And then if you want the sources for today's show, as always, we have a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document we're going to show you here today. That way you can't say, oh, you're just making that up. If we show you something, we usually have a source for it, or we clarify it's our opinion. So from as far as this goes, we're going to go from Russia, and you can give us your input over on Navalny, and we'll kind of touch back on him later. But Russian parliament speaker, Washington and Brussels are to blame for Navalny perishing. Dex, do you want to go over that?
Well, it's funny. Everybody's going to point the finger and start blaming. But coming out of the parliament there, they said that both Washington and Brussels are to blame for his perishing. Vladimir went on the attacking the West for accusing Russia for being behind Navalny's death. So obviously, the West came out like Jens Stoltenberg from NATO and U.S. leadership and said these perpetrators of Navalny's death, calling them that. And we also had JB come out, Biden come out today and use it as a rally cry for why we need to support Ukraine and take care of that problem, and was pointing, saying how bad it was. So we've got the finger pointing going on all over the place. The West is saying it's Russia's fault. Russia's saying it's the West's fault. Obviously, everybody's got their story, and there's probably something somewhere in the middle that's the truth. And I don't think either side is really giving it to us.
A lot of folks on X, aka Twitter, believe that this smells of an op of some sort. The timing of it, the timing of the launch. So say, hypothetically, the Russian launch was nothing more than, they put up a test vehicle up there to check weather conditions or something. Say that's the real situation, and they didn't detect a nuclear signature on a launch, right? Say it's just a weather thing, and they're going, hey, this is a great opportunity. They just launched something. Let's throw out a story a couple days later saying, hey, they've got nukes and EMPs in the sky, and let's scare people. Then we'll knock Navalny off. We'll do this all in the time frame to pull away from everybody that's cheering for Russia right now because of all of the Tucker stuff that's coming out. Say that is the thing. Either way, if there is any kind of orchestration going on here, they are doing huge moves, things that will change world history right now. As far as what they're talking about with space, this is definitely framework, and if that was the case, they could set up for a huge event here that changes how we run things. If you have not been paying attention to the arguments going on in Congress, they're going over, of course, if you follow Snowden, Snowden's been talking about the HR bill, this and that, about the FISA 702 thing. I've watched hours of these briefings, and it's insane. You've got Thomas Massey, I believe it is. He, of course, it was a DeSantis guy, and he said that T-Man threw the Sixers under the bus, all this stuff. But he also pointed out that all of this stuff is going on right now, that they're basically spying on Americans, and they're trying to change things to where they can continue doing this. Essentially, they found like 280,000 times where U.S. citizens had their stuff spied on or accessed or these kind of things. How the FISA and all of this works since 2008 or 2009. Because of 2001 and that event, the Patriot Act was enacted. And then, of course, things that followed that the FISA and Homeland Security and Secret Service was moved under the purview of Department of Homeland Security. All of these things going on pointed out that not only are they spying, but they're kind of manipulating, they're obstructing things. They deleted cell phone records from January. It was pretty crazy. All sorts of phone records and text messages were deleted, and they said, "Oh, it's because we were moving to a new carrier." Well, there's acts in place for them to actually preserve that data, right? Meanwhile, they delete that data. They delete all the texts and things from people, basically everyone involved in that. All of those are deleted. All of the calls, call records, that. Meanwhile, they are essentially tracking everyone here and around the world. They know that there's been abuses of it. At the same time, they're trying to continue that. Whereas a lot of people are calling for them to not be able to spy on U.S. citizens. It's absolutely nuts that they can. It's supposed to be, we're supposed to be protected under our Constitution. But unfortunately, these big events, and why this has something to do with Navalny and everything that's going on right now, the space launch, all of this, is if there is a massive event, then a massive event will call for people to say, we need to be safe. You guys aren't keeping us safe. There will be public outcry. It is so much easier for them to get things done when the world is actually asking them for it. They have an excuse to do things, to change things, to act in laws. We need to have everyone tracked and traced because it's just not safe anymore. If you want your kids to grow up in a hellhole, then fine. But if you want to be safe, this is what's happening. We have threats here, threats there. Your kids won't even be able to go to school without, and be safe. People will be screaming. They'll go, I never want to lose power for 2 weeks again. I never want to go through that. We had our whole house robbed. We had everything stolen, blah, blah, blah. That's the kind of event that a lot of folks see hypothetically happening, even if that Russia isn't doing all of this. They see that we get into a world war with Russia and China and all of these because possibly they're all at the same table behind closed doors saying, hey, we'll be able to restructure the whole world like this. We'll be able to change leadership. We'll be able to actually put the small group of people in charge, and there will be no more this side versus that side of the very rich and elite. Because it does feel like there's two very powerful sides at work here. And I don't think it's good and evil. It's more like evil and evil. And again, it's like this group of people with this interest and this group of people with this interest. As far as the good, they're far and few between, and I think they're scattered, and usually they get, taken out in some way or they disappear. So with this Navalny disappearing or, perishing in prison, it sounds oddly familiar to somebody that, had a lot of things going on here that passed. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. It's going pretty crazy. And then over 100 people arrested across Russia at memorial protest for Navalny. Again, people basically got up in arms about this, and it caused chaos there. So again, people are saying, well, if this is causing chaos all over Russia and people are standing up and now they're mad and they think that Putin did it, then it makes it look like, why would Putin do that to himself? Why would they do that if they knew it was going to cause more support? If you do something like this, you turn him into a martyr. If people believe truly that he perished of odd reasons, he's already been poisoned for sure. He's already been imprisoned. If he's then taken out in jail while he's already, can't do anything, then people are going to get on his side. People are going to say, hey, maybe that guy was right. They're going to start supporting him. That's at least my opinion. What's yours? Let me know in the comments down below. But Russian police have arrested over 80 people for participating in protests in memory of Russian opposition figure Alexei Navalny, who perished in prison today. So, yeah, odd timing for all of this. What do you guys think? Let me know. Before we get into some really serious stuff, again, if you don't like scary movies, don't watch scary movies. We're going to get into some really stressful things. If you're easily panicked, then I'd probably tune out right now. So please, keep that in mind. I know, one of my friends, Nick, it messes him up. He can't sleep at night when he sees what's actually happening right now. So it's up to you. You're an adult. You can choose if you want to watch the rest of the show or not. Yeah. So, and then before we move on, make sure to go over and check out EMP Shield. All the stuff that we're about to talk about, there's a lot of really creepy stuff going on. Remember that the government, the military, they're all setting themselves up. They're going to be protecting themselves. They're going to keep continuity of government. Pretty sure of that. And as far as civilians, we know from prior huge disasters, like power down, situations in whole cities like Louisiana or in New Orleans, when things like that happen with Hurricane Katrina, where was the system at? They ended up doing martial law. It was really, really horrible conditions. It took 4 days to get water to the Superdome. The police left their stations to go save their own families. And they had plans for almost every scenario. So if you think, they've got a department for every kind of thing like this, well, just think about this. Every disaster that happens is unexpected, or most of them are, and they don't have a plan for everything. So if you want to protect yourself, go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARV. Again, these are devices that can protect your cars from cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats from not only EMP strikes, multiple EMP strikes, but solar events from the sun. If a Carrington level event happens, this will, could knock out our entire grid. If you want your car to continue to run, if you want your all of the appliances in your house to continue to run, you'll want to have one wired into your home and one wired into your car. You can get the micro version if the big one is out. Again, they've been running out of the big one the last week, so at least that's what people have said. They've been going and getting the micro, if not. The micro is a few dollars more, but it is about a quarter of the size and all the same protection, and it's just as easy to put in your car. Red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, and then green to ground or a part of your frame, and you're done. In less than 10 minutes, you'll be able to get home to bug in or get out to bug out. marfooglenews.com/EMP. It helps support us and it helps protect you. So again, make sure to use that code MARV. All right, let's do a quick roll call in the chat. Want to say what's going on. We've got Just Matt here. We've got Nickelwise, Paul Saul, Jeremy Smith. We have Stephen McMahon. What is happening? We've got let's see here, Badger 1, Tracy Q. If you want to just do a general state or province and find other Foogle fam in your area. North Iowa, Diane Whitlock, nice to see you here. Ladybug is here. Ireland in the house. We've got Total Vagabonds. Nice to see you here again. Sasquatch Schoolie says Dacula, Georgia. Is that really Dacula or Dracula? Dex
Dacula.
Dacula. I totally said that wrong. Oregon, Baton Rouge, Saul DePaul, South Central North Carolina, Tip of the Spear. Tip of the Spear. Is that Florida? Where's Tip of the Spear? I mean that's like a nickname for a place, right? I'm trying to think of Tip. I just heard that on a documentary somewhere. Tina Brunson, hey y'all, Northern Alabama, Kentucky. We've got Aviado. We have New York. We have Denellen, Florida. That's awesome. Michigan. We've got Washington State. Mello says hello. Mello, hello. Cynthia Dawson. We've got Gippsland, Victoria, Australia. What is happening? We've got Canadistan, on terrible Canadistan. Let's see here. Nate is here. Donna Ana County, El Paso, Texas, Florida, Southern California. Nice to see you guys. And thank you so much for making it to yet another episode of Marfoogle TV. It's me, PD. What's happening? And then Judy Bira from the Vegas Sphere. Let's see here. And David, Eric King, Phil D. Roll, and WIS Jen. Nice to see you all. All right. Moving on. Russia is attempting to develop nuclear space weapons to destroy satellites with the massive energy waves, sources familiar with intel say. Dex, do you want to go over this?
So this is the latest update. So guys, if you want something to share for your friends and family, I know you're going to hang out here for the whole show. Make sure to go to the news channel and grab that short and share it. It's what we're talking about here. This is the update. We covered this a few days ago when it first came out. Now what is being said is they're explicitly using obviously CNN as the mouthpiece here to push out the narrative that they want. First off, they're telling us that this is only going to cripple our commercial and government satellites, and it'll make sure that we can't use our cell phones, pay our bills, and surf the internet. But they said, "Don't worry, nothing really bad is gonna happen. None of this will actually happen to you. It won't hurt you. It won't physically harm anybody just because they're putting a nuke in space." Now they're also trying to say that, "Oh, it's not happened yet, or it's not there yet. We're just looking into it." They've backpedaled the story so much and spun it, and now, of course, pushing this out on a Friday, trying to get everything out. But what's interesting is even some of the officials from the government that are talking are using the word EMP. They are actually saying, Defense Department Intelligence has been talking about EMPs, but they went on to say that they know that this goes back for a long time, that they've understood that the concept, it's not a new concept. It goes back to the Cold War, said one of them. The big fear with any eventual EMP device in orbit, it might render large portions of our particular orbits unusable. Okay, great. So what does that mean to the people on the ground? And what they're not telling everybody is the actual effects of an EMP. And I think they don't want to scare everyone. They're trying to backpedal the story as if this wasn't something that just happened when we know there was a Russian launch for the Ministry of Defense. It was a secret launch. It happened on the 9th. This panic came out on the 14th. Just 5 days later, one congressman tried to raise it up and say, this is important and we need to get it out into the public. And they sort of squashed him. Then they turned it into, if you remember that day, they turned it into a political thing. All the headlines from the MSM were this side of the political wing is trying to push that narrative, and the other side is saying don't worry about it. So they politicized it quickly, and now they're again trying to backpedal the story. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if in that launch they detected something, and that's what's causing the concern, and they don't want the public to know because they don't want the public to be panicked. And that's why we talk about these things, because we don't panic. We actually do what's right to prepare ourselves, and we connect the dots and we make sure that we're prepared for things like this. But nonetheless, a very important story. We're going to continue to monitor it. I don't expect them to tell us the truth anytime soon, but it is interesting that as they've talked to different officials, the language has started to come out of EMP, of nuclear device, of taking out satellites with energy from a nuke, which we all know exactly what that is. You can go back and research Starfish Prime. You'll understand what an EMP is, what a high altitude EMP is, and how it will take out satellites, but it will take out our grid. It will affect us here on Earth.
So Smedley Butler says, who cares about EMPs or nukes when there's hackable power grids? And said, my SF Delta Force buddy that's in the whole that was in the whole Middle East told me that hackable power grid is the worst attack. We've talked about hack as far as they're in the same category. As far as being able to hack the grid, we have talked about that. China was found in our infrastructure. They've been in it for 5 or 6 years now. They found that they were in all of the systems. They had backdoors into everything. If you've ever seen the movie Dragon Day, as bad B movie casting as it was and low budget, that actually had a pretty solid plot. There were some things that were kind of stupid, but frankly, the part about having infiltrated the country already, talking to key people in every city, that kind of thing is already suspected right now. That was back in 2012. Now you go fast forward, you have the governors flying for unannounced trips to China. You have random people flown to dinners at Xi's house. You have balloons flying all over our bases. You have military-age males coming in through the southern border in droves. And then, in fact, if it's true that they've documented these groups of 18 to 25-year-old males from China not only coming across, no families, just 18 to 25 young guys, buzz cuts, coming across and then slicing a chicken and drinking it, that's a ritual of the PLA. Like, if this is all true, and add that to the police stations set up in all of the NATO countries, and police stations, they call are basically these set up for spy base from China. They're in major cities all over the country, and now they've confirmed one in almost every NATO country. So, like, you've got all of this happening at the same time as Russia, Ukraine, South Korea, North Korea, Israel, Hamas, China, Taiwan, Japan and China, Philippines and China, Venezuela and Guyana, Serbia just got put into this. South Africa is basically, they're about to put somebody into power. If the guy that wins, he wants to take out all people of a certain color. He said, yeah, I think we should just take them off the planet. Like, there's a lot happening right now, and I'm forgetting a few. I'm actually forgetting at least one set of countries that are going after each other. And then as far as hackable, we're talking that they already have the systems in place to hack our grid, hack our water supply, hack our pipelines. So that could very well happen at the same time. And really, there's no protecting against that unless you have backup power. That's why we suggest, having your own generators. Dex, go ahead.
Well, and let's keep in mind, a hack is something that can be repaired. It does cause an outage. It does cause a problem. It's measured in days, sometimes weeks, worst case scenario, a month. We've seen with some of these major hacks where it may take a long time. And it's also can potentially be isolated in certain areas. Once it's discovered in one place, it may be able to be blocked from happening in other places. So, yes, very valid, very important, and something that we know they're doing. But an EMP is one time, takes out grid and satellites all in one with a very tiny payload. It doesn't even need to be a large nuke. It's
Low
a
yield.
very, very small low yield. All it has to be is in the high altitude, low Earth or just above low Earth orbit, and it will rock the ionosphere.
And if they take they did NERC and the NERC report, and if there's another one, a 4-letter agency, they reported that basically 9 of our big transformers, these aren't transformers that are at the top of the poles or a box in your yard. These are giant building-sized transformers. They are not built here. They are built overseas, and they take upwards of 9 months to get made and shipped. And that's if our supply chain is currently working. They have to be made for the exact spot. They're not made modular. They don't just ship them out. They're made for whatever place that they're at. They're I think they're hundreds of tons. These things are just gigantic. Those, if 9 of them are knocked out, our entire grid goes down. As far as what 9 that you knock out could do that, we don't know, but the NERC report knows. That's what they found. And if that information was accessed during, of course, solar winds, the largest hack ever information, or any of the satellite hacks that happened, or any of the leaks, any of this stuff that happened with Ukraine, if that got out, then that's a problem. We do know during solar winds, they accessed black, what is it? Gosh, I'm forgetting the Black Start, which Black Start is our actual operational plan to restart the grid after it gets knocked down. Remind you that if our supply chain is running and everything is good, they're saying 9 months. They say 9 to 24 months. And 24 months, now experts have said, if our supply chain isn't working, that nothing happens, that there is no fixing it. And then if they've accessed Black Start, they can go to each point. They know the exact plan, our A to B or A to Z plan of like, we're going to fix this, then we're going to get this, then we're going to order this. If they can stop and set up at each one of those points, they can stop you from continuing to put it back together. Not to mention, if you knock out satellites communications here in the U.S. at the same time that China takes Taiwan, that North Korea takes South Korea, that Venezuela takes Guyana, I think it's pretty obvious. When all chaos breaks out in the United States, this is what I think is going to happen. They're going to EMP or hack our grid, knock us down. There's going to be chaos in the United States. It may be even in Europe. Then China is going to take the very short 110, 125-mile trip, take Taiwan at the same time. Our military is going to try to go over there. Our military is going to then go, North Korea just shot thousands of artillery into South Korea. Venezuela is going to take Guyana, which Guyana we've done pledges to drill with them and to protect them. And then Russia's going to go in. Russia could even take the Baltic states if they really wanted to. We still don't know what's true there. But we do know North wants the South. We do know that China wants Taiwan. We do know that there's several places. And then, of course, Israel, they're setting it up right now. Iran says that their pipelines were just hit by Israel. There is a setup for a world war here. And I think that as far as the U.S. goes, if there is chaos going here, we're going to have to kind of depend on ourselves. And that's what all the experts say too, is if they're focused everywhere else, the military isn't going to come save you. It's going to be about us. People go, oh, they could never invade us. We're armed to the teeth. Well, if you have all of the information, and this is where the data comes in, if you have all the lists of all of the owners of Bang Bangs, like I don't know, like the weird instance where all of the gun owners in California were somehow leaked. It was a very fishy leak, and they were like, "Oh yeah, by the way, the locations where everybody who owns a weapon, how many they own, their name, their house, their address, all of that got leaked." If you know that, then say if you have some drone swarms, you could literally have these drones, autonomous drones, hit each and every target, and you knock out half of you knock out the people that may cause you problems. If you have people already in place, you have, I don't know, millions of people come across beforehand or set up shop or buy property right near bases. Think about this. They're buying huge plots of land right next to bases. Is anybody seeing a connection there? They could then get things getting ready. They could get things started. And then when things pop off, they hit every base. And you see this from the other side of how they're prepping. They're prepping to land on highways with our jets and everything else. Why would you do that? Well, you would do that if all of our runways and everything was knocked out. This sounds very doomy, but if we're looking at the real situation, that's what we talk about here. Like you can choose to go somewhere else and find some happy, everything's going to be kumbaya somewhere else. This is what people come to us for, because this is what I think is going to happen. So I really hope that doesn't happen. There's a lot of natural disasters, a lot of things. I didn't know when I started this channel how much I was going to, get information from all over the world. And when you get multiple people from multiple countries saying the same thing, it is very eye-opening. I never thought, I was focused on so many other things. And when the bigger the community got, the more people in the community in higher positions that were like, you got to talk about this. You got to think about this. This is happening right now. Did you know this? I'm like, no, I didn't. And now fast forward, everything that the community, if there's things that are coming in from so many different places, and we're not talking about forums or somebody sending me 50 people sending me the same YouTube video saying, or they said, I did my research, which means I watched someone else's video, that kind of thing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about active military, retired military, telling us what's happening before it's happening. And we've had a good track record. Everything we said was coming is now headlines. And people still don't believe it because now no one trusts the news. That is probably the point of this. If you don't think that they're purposely making it so you don't trust them, I don't know what to say, because it's reverse psychology. Now they can put the actual truth right out in the open and nobody questions it. Nobody even thinks about it because they think, oh, it's fake news, or it's this, or I don't believe them. And then it happens. They said the whole thing with the V. Everybody goes, no, it won't lock us down. Oh, it won't be longer than 2 weeks. A year later, it's like people really have to realize who we're dealing with. Like, it's getting insane. They're going after independent media. They're going after everybody that has a voice. So you got to get prepared now, and you've got to remember these messages now, because at some point there may not be a message there to hear. If the internet, if all the communications go down, so do we. So does our community. So do the people, all the friends you talk to that you would be able to talk to and call and say, hey, how do I start a fire? How do I do this? Or how do I store my food? That information is going to be gone. That's why we suggest people have backups, have protected devices, have books, have printouts of instructions on how to do certain things. Because if this goes down like many of us think it's going to go down, it's not going to be a fun time, whether it's a week or 2 years. Either way, it may be the realest thing. They look at it in a very small, even if it went down for 2 years, they're looking at the big picture. They're looking after 2 years of suffering, which the people that we're talking about are in their bunkers and in their $270 million houses. We suffer, they don't. After that 2 years, they put their 2 years in, and then boom, the whole world changes and it benefits them the most. Everything that's happening right now, it's pretty clear we're about to have major change from AI and robots taking over all of our jobs, which is not science fiction anymore, to AI creating and making videos that look so real, you won't be able to discern real from fake anymore. We thought this was coming. I don't think anybody thought it was coming this fast. We are in the future now. It's no longer like in the 80s where they thought in 2020 we would have flying cars. That's not even important anymore. Flying cars has been done. It's not efficient. But you know what is AI and this tech that is coming out. Brain implants, traveling to other planets, if that's true. All of this is coming. So of course there's going to be a war. People are going to fight over what's going to be left of this world that's going to be completely different. The economy has to change if all of this stuff changes. If there's going to be AI and robots, then I think the governments of the world are realizing they're going to have to change how the system works right now, because they can't keep the old system going if there's nobody working. There's no, people slaving away at 9-to-5 jobs. They're going to have to deal with a whole lot of people that won't have work. What are they going to do? Well, they could always reduce that number. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. And neutral Swiss plan to boost defense spending in a world destabilized by Ukraine. Dex and Ukraine and the Mideast wars. Dex, what are they doing here?
Yeah, so these guys, Switzerland, their government plans to boost its defense spending by up to 19% over the next 4 years. And they're doing this, and mind you, they're not one that normally does this. They are very neutral. They're neutral with everybody. They intentionally, because they have all the money. Everybody banks there, even the bad guys. Everybody's got their money there. So they try to stay and play the line. But this is them. They're getting involved because they believe what's happening in UKR, or really what the rest of Europe and NATO, but also, worried about even what's happening with the Middle East, and the gaps that are created with the authority crashed in on the peace dividend from the fall of the Berlin Wall decades ago. That caused, issues. So they're trying to preempt that, but also ramp up their defense spending, something that they've never really laid out a lot of money for. So the quote from them is, for the first time, we're indicating how the army must evolve in the next 12 years. Amherd told the reporters on Wednesday. She said the weakening of the Swiss defense was not an accusation, but a fact which can be traced to the fall of the Berlin Wall. So here we go. Another European country, again, ramping up for this coming war. They're all talking about it. They're all predicting it. The other side is saying, no, it's not happening. I'm not going to invade. But every other country in Europe is prepared for it. And it's almost mind boggling. It's to understand or even think, which side to believe. Because even when you look at Russia and say, well, they said they're not going to do anything. They're just going to hold the land they have. But if they were going to do something, then that's what they would say, is they're not going to do something. They always do the opposite of what they say. So it makes you wonder if that really means they're going to come in, or, is NATO and the rest of the European countries just hyping up a bunch of, fear for the population? And are they doing it to gain more control and to gain more money and support for the actions and activities that they're doing?
But
there's all different ways you can look at this one, and it's, no matter which way you look at it, it's scary if an event goes down.
What's an easy thing for them to do, though, is now that no one trusts the media, they can literally have everybody. The reason why people aren't panicked is because mainstream is telling them, oh, this is going to happen. They're going to go to war. As far as everybody's going, oh, well, yeah, they're just saying that. They're just scaring us. When it does happen, people are going to be caught off guard, even though it's been plastered everywhere. That's the crazy part, is everybody's assumption is that if it's in typeface and if it's put out by the main legacy media, that it's completely fake. Legacy media also has a purpose of shaping the narrative around a real event. They shape how you view it. That's how you manipulate populations, is you manipulate how they see things, not what they see. If you understand what I'm saying. They can also make a fake, explosion in a video, a wag the dog type scenario, but they can also take a real scenario and then twist the facts of it and then have you believe, oh, somebody else did this. People are just going to, go up until the very moment this happens. This is exactly what we've been seeing for 5-6 years. We've seen the framework. We've seen the things that weren't talked about, the back page stuff. Like Kevin Bacon in Leave the World Behind says, it's like, I read the back page, not the front page, right? That's where all of this is. And I swear they stole that from either my show or somebody else's, but I've said that for a long time, 5-6 years. We don't cover the front page. We cover the back page. The back page, the small stuff that's not getting all the... Nobody's at the water cooler going, hey, did you see that new contract on all of the amphibious vehicles? Yeah, huge contract. They moved it from 2032 to 2023. Out of nowhere. It's like, that's the kind of stuff you have to pay attention to. And we've been paying attention to it. And from what we gleaned years ago, we were able to put this scenario together, which at the time they were like, yeah, right. Now it's in the actual history, because this is, again, in 20 years from now, high school kids are going to go back to the articles of today, whether you are here for it and you go, that's BS. Whether you are not, same with January, whether you believe that was this or that, in the history books, they're going to look back and that is going to be the lie that they agreed upon, and that's going to be history. So as far as if a big explosion goes off, something this and that, whatever they're writing in this mainstream media will become history. So just remember that. They may tell you right out in front what is going to happen, and I believe they are in this case. And a lot of people are going to push back on that because they want this to be fake. They want this to be fear-mongering. They want it to be. It feels a whole lot better. It makes you sleep better at night if you think this is all fear-mongering. But also fear-mongering requires you to be afraid. Most of us are not. Most of us are ready for this. And then Polish Prime Minister says his country and Finland want changes on the EU border policies on migration. So again, we're having these issues here. Everywhere else is like, nope, we're hardening this thing up. We're going to make it to where, this is it. We're drawing the line and we're actually putting some fences up. We're not going to let people in. We're going to actually, get this under control. It says Poland's prime minister said on Friday that his country will upgrade the wall on its border with Belarus to better insulate the frontier against unauthorized migration. But if you also think about this is Poland. Poland has already put dragon's teeth on their borders. Dragon's teeth are to stop tanks. Now they're putting up a bigger wall. In Romania, they are digging trenches that are matching. They said match Russia's 600-mile-long trenches. So that or at least the volume. I don't know if it goes in one line of 600 miles, but they said that they've matched the actual trenches. It's like, why would they do that unless something's about to go down? Why are they setting up infrastructure? Why are they giving contracts out to pillbox companies for something that hasn't happened yet? Concrete companies that are going to make pillboxes just like World War II and World War I. These things are all little parts that are going to play into the big future of things. So they are, again, it's crazy because we're all debating about this. Other countries, there's no, if they want to do this, they'll go, hey, something's wrong here. We need a better wall. And they just put it up. There's no debate about it. It's not that you're the R word or this or that. It's like people are coming in that aren't legally doing it. It's illegal. Stop the illegal. Just like if a police officer sees somebody committing a crime, they stop it. If somebody's doing something illegal, how can we stop that illegal thing from happening? It's not like there is no debate about why or the situations. And if there is a situation there that they need to migrate, then they do it the legit way and say, hey, I need refugee status or I need this. That's how it is in a lot of other countries. But again, or it could be they're prepping for something else. And Moldova. Dex, do you want to remind people, remember the map Belarus put out with the Belarusian president sitting in front of the map, and it showed Russia with an arrow into Moldova with their pointer, and it was a leaked photo that looked kind of posed. And now they're talking about their laying groundwork.
It was staged for sure. Yeah, I remember that one. That was Lukashenko standing there right in front of it. There's a perfect picture. It was trying to be a picture of Lukashenko, and in the background, a big map with Europe and arrows going right through Ukraine into Moldova, and everybody said that's where they're going next. Well, look, the reason why is there is a location called Transnistria, and it's in Moldova, and that is actually occupied by a lot of Russians. And I don't know if it's got a legal territory or any sort of rules around it, but I don't know that much of it. But it is a Russian occupation of that area since 1992, and they've had Russians in that small territory in the middle of Moldova. So there's been a lot of rhetoric coming out, and what they're saying, and the they in this is the Institute of Study for War. They're saying that the messaging that Russia is using around Moldova right now is very similar to the messaging that they used before they invaded Ukraine. And so they're saying that they're likely, Moscow's methods are likely designed to set the conditions to justify possible future Russian escalation against Moldova. That's the quote. So I guess it's more along how they're referring to the location, how they're referring to the people, and that Russia, quote unquote, says it's concerned about their fate, and it, quote, will not allow them to become victims of another Western adventure, quote. So those are sort of the statements that are coming out of Russia that is causing this think tank, these really smart people that analyze all this, to sort of make this suggestion. So yet again, it's not out of thin air for many reasons. Obviously, there's a miniature territory there with a lot of Russians in it. Not out of thin air in the sense that we've seen a battle map with arrows pointing right through, heading into Moldova after Ukraine, with Lukashenko there at the table. And now it's, being backed up again by just some of the rhetoric that's being used by the Russian political parties and leadership.
And a reminder, this map, when this came out, people all debated on why this map existed, and this map was custom made. It was a giant thing. This was not a screen. This was an actual, some sort of, war map. But the images up here, people and Foogle fam actually called out, they were able to spot actual brigades. Basically what this had on there was locations of where our military actually were at that moment. So when you looked at it, they said, the whatever blah, blah, blah battalion was right here on the border. And that coincided with where they actually were. Back then, they looked at this and they go, oh, that's where they're actually deployed. So this was an up-to-the-minute map, and it shows an arrow, as they have highlighted, of after Ukraine going into Moldova. And now that's what's being said. So once again, it's like something that was speculation then, now getting closer and closer, they're setting up the framework saying this is going to happen. Everything now, people go, well, yeah, if it's true, but almost all of this has actually happened. Everything is going. And even if it wasn't going to, they make it happen because there's some sort of goal here. There's some sort of agenda behind it. And they're driving towards a certain point. And it's pretty clear that point is WW3 consolidating, putting everybody under one umbrella. Sound familiar? Only this is a group and not a man with a mustache. So I think some stuff is going on right now that's way above all of our heads. And it's easy to say, oh, it's just all, it's all fake. It's all distraction. I believe there's tons of fake stuff. There's tons of distraction out there. But what is, if you really look at the common sense of this thing, what is their main goal? How did they get to their main goal? Their main goal is so far out. How do you change the people to get them to where they're all going to fall in line to this goal that nobody wants? Unless you make a serious reset. I mean, there's literal wording saying we've got to reset the system. You can't reset without tearing it down. You can't build a house. You can't remodel a house without tearing it down. And they'll build it back. In their words, better. And then UKR components from US, China, and Switzerland discovered in Black Russian Shahed UAV. So they're saying that our components somehow ended up in these UAVs. I mean, I'm not going to go too deep on this because we've got more to get to. But a lot of folks are looking at this and saying, hey, this is a kind of a big deal. How are U.S. components ending up in these Russian drones? This also fuels theories and speculation that, like, hey, something fishy's going on here. Maybe it is what some speculated, that they're all high-fiving behind closed doors. Doesn't change what it's going to look like to us civilians. Doesn't change what's going to affect us. Doesn't change our power going out. It changes, nothing as far as we're concerned. But it's pretty messed up. Dex, do you have any comments about how we're finding parts there?
They're talking about chips, and part of me thinks that even some of those components they're using are probably older, readily available, stocked up all over the place, and they're probably easy for them to order on Amazon or wherever it is they need. And I'm being facetious when I say Amazon, but the equivalent of the online Radio Shack. And finding those kind of components, whether they're finding them outside of the US, but they're still US made, it's going to be hard. I think they're trying to make the case that, oh, you should do something and find ways to sanction this. And maybe they should if they can. But I have a sneaking suspicion it's not like they're grabbing, the latest and greatest tech from Intel or AMD or somebody like that and putting it in these drones. So
it's becoming quite ridiculous at this point. All of the different American components and weapons that are found all over the world at this point. Somebody's getting paid. Winton Dupree, I just want to say thank you to a few people. Thank you, Winton Dupree. Thank you for the super on Antarctica. Stephen McMahon, John Taylor, Uncle Iro, Gabby B, Stephen McMahon, Firma Paradox, Mr. Helmet Guy, Nana MT, thank you for popping in last night. Thank you. Richard Koschmeider, K. Parker Fraser, thank you for your support over not only on the other show. And then Stormhawk, did we get that comment? Because we missed it.
Yes, I got it. Stormhawk says, I have 2 EMP shields because in the land of the blind, the man with one eye is king.
In the land of the blind, the man with one eye is king. That's good. Where is that from? I wonder. Probably Confucius say something like that. But and then thank you to a few new members. Thank you guys for joining. Tristan Green looks like rejoined. Thank you so much. WIS Jen, Dustin, Polar Bear, Kathy Piana, Diane Whitlock, Jay Alisi this week, Daggett and Stump, Rosette Koss. Nice to see you. And then Starshine, Darth V, Dennis N. In the month, Teresa Broadway, Kelly Simmons, I'm a Star, baby. Laura Floyd, and Greg Sparks. I don't know why I thought of that skit. The superstar. And thank you again, Richard Koschmeider, and then Stormhawk. Thank you for your comment on Marfoogle News. Over on DLive, thank you everybody that has popped in so far. Thank you, Chance Paladin, for holding it down over there, and Jammer, of course. Lacey back now, too. Thank you for being here. And Chance, thank you for gifting her a badge. One on B, Badger 1, thank you. And Comet Moon, not to forget Kimbria, of course. Thank you for making it every show. And Holiday Kisser. Thank you. And before we move on, if you don't have a backup power supply, this is why we suggest going and checking out Energy. As far as their generators, these are the best on the market, in my opinion. In fact, people go, oh, well, what about that one competitor? If you look, so first of all, this is the brand and the company that the U.S. Army has selected for the STTR Phase 2 contract, and they selected Energy to work with them and directly design the Flex Tactical. This is going to be whether the tactical, I think they're going to, in the future, go with the design of this and maybe remove a couple of the things and make 2 different versions, one with the heated batteries and one with not. I don't know this for a fact. But the cool thing about these is the 1,500-pound latches are so quick and easy. That's why I recommend it, like a everyday use, just as far as ease of use. It's so much easier to unclamp those. They're 1,500-pound latches. So as far as stacking 4 or 5, it's a much easier system than the side-to-side clamps. So again, but this is built like they used to build stuff. As far as those competitors, if you look at any that are modular and expandable like this, you can stack these like Lego bricks. You can put in a brick that will change the performance, add, uninterrupted power supply. You can add a brick that allows you to plug in 3 times the amount of panels, solar panels. You can add a brick that quick charges it from your wall in 45 minutes. Like, so many cool things for this. As far as that goes, look at any of the competitors. They're usually by a company, and they're not the same quality, in my opinion. They are then owned by a company that is directly tied back to the people that were worried about putting back doors and everything. This one, you don't have to worry about that. So again, marfooglenews.com/energy. Again, one of the easiest and best made out there. You're going to have to wait. So if you want to get one, I would get it quick because you're going to have to wait for it to come. So as far as you're going to be months out from getting one. So go over to marfooglenews.com/energy. If you can't wait that long, then I'd highly recommend even getting a gas powered generator and then possibly trying to sell it later down the road or keep it later down the road. And then when this comes in, try to get some of your money back for it. But yeah, marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. It's made like appliances. It's silent, and it can be like this shows inside your house. Nobody's going to know you have power. Nobody's going to know you have it. Whereas a gas-powered generator that requires gas and gas stations to be running and have electricity, this can be run quietly, and nobody's going to know you have it. marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code MARF. It helps support our independent channel. We are headed up towards a behemoth in this next year. Come November, it's every 4 years we go through hell. So thank you guys for sharing us out. More importantly, share this with a friend or family member. And thank you for putting up with these affiliate ads. We only pick affiliates that we 100% believe in, we think will save your life, make your life better, or make you comfortable through a disaster. And heck, it doesn't have to be the end of the world for this to come into play. If you've lost power to a storm, this can save you from going to a family member's house or going to a hotel. If you lose power for days, some solar panels put up in your backyard, you got business as usual off grid. And then let's go over to the Red Sea. Red Sea drones are being used to smash Russia's Navy, and now they're being used to threaten a U.S. carrier strike group too, which is crazy. We have 5 carriers being sent to the South China Sea, and we have yet more over in the Red Sea. We've got our Navy all over the world, and a lot of it deployed. But now these sea drones, which we talked about originally with UKR hitting Russia, now they're saying that Russia or now the Houthis, isn't it the Houthis, are now threatening the strike groups with the same kind of technology. The Houthi rebels apparently have these water drones, and it's like, again, another thing like where the U.S. and NATO infrastructure, these kind of things, are now the same thing as being used against us. Did they create their own? Or did somebody in a back room or off of a truck say, hey, I got a couple of these? They're like the ones that UKR had that were coming from a company may have been connected to they used like a jet ski engine. But these things basically used the kind of the same, power. They were powered by the same thing that would push a jet ski. They have explosives on them. They're a one-time use. They drive right into something and go boom. If they can take our ship out, that would be a big deal. As the Dwight D. Eisenhower carrier strike group fends off attacks in the Red Sea, Houthi rebels have added new weapon to their arsenal, naval drones, the AP reported. Houthis have launched or attempted to launch multiple explosive uncrewed vessels since January 4th into the waters off of Yemen, where they could threaten U.S. Navy and commercial vessels, adding a new surface-level threat to the attacks involving airborne drones and missiles. Rear Admiral Mark Miguez, the commander of the Eisenhower carrier strike group, told the outlet that sea drones were more of an unknown threat that we don't have a lot of intel on that could be extremely lethal. Well, you'd think they would see it coming and just pop it out of the water. But maybe I don't know how difficult it is to do that. And even if they have radars and things, Maybe they have temporary radar jammers on some of these things. Russia has technology that can do that. Put it actually on the boat. Is that possible? Could they make it to where they would have to physically see it? I don't know. Do they have detectors? If you were on a Navy carrier, obviously it has a strike group with it. If this could knock out a destroyer next to it or something like that, I mean, that could be really bad.
These are really cheap too. I mean, look,
Cheap.
even if they wanted to go, they don't have to buy them from our manufacturers. I mean, they can go to any place that has a tourist destination, and they will have tons of jet skis, sea-doos, whatever you want to call them, personal watercraft available to rent or to buy. And I'm sure there's a used market for them everywhere. They just need the components from that. They just need the engine and the actual jet, the water propulsion jet out of it, or the hull and the frame, and rig up the ability to steer it and remote control it. This not cost a lot of money, and you can get these for $5,000, used. You can get them for $2,000 used. You can get them for $10,000 used. So they can be popping these things out left and right, whether they're manufacturing them or building them. But the thing is, they're so small too, and it is not something that we've necessarily in the past with all of our military equipment said, oh, we have to worry about these Sea-Doos. We worry about, maybe down to a small dinghy that's like a floatable raft with an engine on it. But when they get them down to these little bitty personal watercraft size, it's maybe something that our tech hasn't really paid much attention to in the past. And now it's a new threat that they have to look at. And like you said, maybe they can't find them on radar as easily. And that's why they've been so sneaky. Obviously been effective in Russia. It's taken out 4 or 5 ships now.
Well, yeah. I mean, and you're talking 5,000, 2,000. If the one goal is just to use the main parts, you could probably get one for $100 or $200, depending on who you're getting it from. Somebody might not want it sitting in their lawn or something. I know that one of my friends found them all the time for under $500. He would paint them and put them out on the water. They weren't the newest; they were older, but they don't need that. They just need a propulsion system and rig up a crude system to steer it. If they
it's
even
a
need to steer
one-time
it.
use, right? They don't need quality. They're not worried about it being brand new.
They
can
need
have
it to
100,000
move.
miles on it. Yep.
Yeah. So I guess that will be a kind of a new thing. And then Hunter's dad, Navalny's passing is a predictable tragedy. Rest in peace. It was a show 2 years ago where I said he's probably not going to last long, and actually a lot of people had suggested they thought he was going to perish, before this, but I don't know the full story on Navalny. I've only covered what has been in the news for the last 5 years, but a lot of people are really, really angry right now. So both sides are pointing fingers at each other, saying they did it. It's their fault. It's their fault. So we'll see what happens. And then Iran will reciprocate if its ships are seized. Dex, do you want to go over this one?
Well, so we have threatened, and actually we have taken. We took, what was it, 500,000 barrels of oil. We seized other things, and now we're continuing to. We seized a 747 jet. We've, I guess hinted at that we're going to continue to push down the notion of these sanctions that we have, and who knows, maybe we'll start seizing some of their ships. So they immediately came out and said that they will reciprocate if any of their ships are seized going forward. It's not like we haven't done this in the past. So sounds to me like a good, warning or a good precursor to something we're probably going to see next. Either they're going to take one of our ships, or we're going to take one of their ships, or we're both going to do tit for tats back and forth. This is not necessarily the same thing as the Houthis, which have actually seized ships, and they've put one in a port, and they took all the crew off and took them into land somewhere, and they're holding that ship. This is directly Iran, not through their proxies. So they're saying that they will do it to us, and we've seen them try to do things like this in the past with some of the ships that are mostly shipping oil in and out of the Persian Gulf over there. So keep an eye out. This is like foreshadowing. We're going to see this next.
Yep, it's pretty simple. And by the way, thank you, Ilea, for being here. Genius by birth this year, Texas. Mama Bear, American Argonaut, J Pass, nice to see you. WIS Jen, thank you. Beans and Frank, nice to see you. As far as somebody said something about, let's see here. Something said something about, I heard Iran refused to sign a treaty on Antarctica. We actually covered all of that yesterday. I believe it, yeah. It was yesterday's show? Let's see here. That was yesterday. Yeah, go back and watch yesterday's episode if you want to hear about all the Antarctica stuff. They're saying that they want to build a base and that they claim it as their own and all of this. Whatever's going on with that, just the headlines are just as strange as they get. And then 2 Iranian gas pipelines allegedly were taken out by Israel. This is what they are saying. This is what they are claiming. And this is what they're accusing. So if this is true or if they truly believe it, either way, this is kind of the thing that starts an escalation between 2 countries. You're talking war between Israel and Iran. Why is that bad for us? Well, we completely back Israel. So if Israel gets in war with Iran, we get in a war with Iran. There may be a motivation or some group that is somewhat in charge that may want to get into a war with Iran. At least that's what's been said and speculated for years, if not decades. So this is not good timing on all of this, but it seems pretty obvious what's happening. The end goal seems like it is to get into a war with Iran. That's just my opinion. What's yours? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you, Steven. Thank you. I appreciate that. And Sillins, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for the support. Sherry Dudley, thank you for subscribing 2 minutes ago. Janet Bird, thank you. As always, if you subscribe right now, we always try to shout you out. Janet Bird, Freaky Micey, Aerostar, thank you. Man on the Road, thank you for subscribing. The Lion's Den, thank you for subscribing. George Kelly, thank you for subscribing. Rick Ross, thank you for subscribing. No way. Thank you for subscribing. Viv B, thank you so much. Alex from the Duan, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And then Gabby B, thank you so much. John Taylor and everyone else that has subscribed. Rick Ross, we were just talking about because he built a bunker, huge bunker. I just posted a video of Rick Ross on Twitter, and I have a question for Rick Ross. There's a video of his wife or his girlfriend making a hamburger helper, and she goes, "I made your favorite" or whatever, and gives it to him, and he's like, "Oh, thanks." And she's like, "How did I do?" And he's like, "It's delicious." And then he goes on Insta Live or whatever, and he's like, "I can't believe it. She ruined hamburger helper, one of the easiest things to make." And he takes video of it, and the hamburger helper, it looks like the noodles are just not cooked at all. And then the hamburger is just like a paste. It's actually a really funny video. I posted that though. And my question for Rick Ross, if he ever watches, is, why would you be eating hamburger helper? And she serves him like this super expensive champagne with him. And is that because he's preparing? Are you in a, is that like, is he practicing for a future where you have to be in a bunker? Because hamburger helper is kind of the thing that a lot of preppers have it. It lasts a few years in your pantry. And then of course you can do it with, freeze dried hamburger, or you can do it with, sealed hamburger or frozen hamburger. So I thought that was kind of weird. Like, you're super, super rich eating hamburger helper. I said, is it a comfort food? A lot of people have their comfort foods. Heck, I know somebody who is really wealthy. Favorite meal is just Kraft mac and cheese. So I guess there's both sides to it because they ate it when they were a kid a lot. But I was like thinking hamburger helper out of everything. And I was thinking, is that a clue to them living in a bunker? Anyways, moving on. Pentagon official says without U.S. funding, UKR's defense will likely collapse. I wish I had a button for a Captain Obvious to fly across the screen right now. Just to repeat that, Pentagon official. This is somebody who gets paid a lot of money to say, I'm an official. Says without U.S. funding, Ukraine defense will likely collapse. Oh, this guy needs a helmet. Really? Nobody would have guessed. No joke. This is a real headline. The reason I laugh is, Dex is like, really? Pretty much.
It's all about selling that bill right now. And if anything, this just reiterates what everyone knows is the only way they've been able to survive is with our taxpayer dollars. And, it's coming out of your wallet. It's coming out of my wallet. It's coming out of everyone that's listening here in America's wallet. And that's the only way they can survive. It's the only way it will happen. And yeah, it's Captain Obvious for sure here. Stop paying the bill and it'll come to an end.
Yeah, no duh. By the way, Craig Alicious, thank you for the super chat from Australia, says, I keep seeing Marfoogle written on Goose Wayne's background wall. Was this you or one of the fam? That was me. On D Live, I did a ninjet to Goose Wayne, and for everybody who donates to a stream, he writes it on the wall. And I think mine is bigger just because it was the biggest, the ninjet. And he supported my show. So that was like the heydays of D Live. Everybody supported everybody. And what was cool is if people supported, what I would do is if people would donate to D Live. And when it was really, everybody was over on D Live. And that was really when D Live was at its peak. If people donated money, I could just then redonate that and distribute. I could host somebody, so I could bring my audience over to somebody's channel, which you can still do. But then you could also then gift them that money you were just gifted, so you could just pass on the wealth to other people right away. It was really cool. We were able to help a lot of small creators that way. But Goose Wayne is that was the guy who I was talking about who blew up on blew up on Omegle. He was using Omegle clips and he was reposting it on TikTok and on YouTube. He had millions and millions of views just in the last few months. He finally got success. He hit it big. He's now, everybody recognizes him. He's all over TikTok, all over YouTube Shorts. He wears a pink mask and he unveils it, and basically people are shocked because he has long hair and he's bald or whatever. And the second he gets success, Omegle shut down. For obvious reasons, it had a lot of pervs on it and everything else, but it was like he actually found a niche, he found a thing, and he got shut down for it. He still streams, he's always creatively changing, but he's a character on stream, but off camera, he's actually super nice. He's a great dad. He's a very sensitive guy. He cares about people. So one creator that off camera is actually, a lot of people are one person on camera and then a horrible person off camera. I'm not saying he's a horrible person on camera, but he used to be kind of a professional troll. Off camera, he's super, super nice. And he helps people off camera. Anyways, he's a good guy. And then Kim Jong-un draws red line at sea, renews promise to fire on South Korean ship that violates even 0.001 millimeters. And that's such a North Korean way to put it. If they even go 0.001 millimeters, then, fire and fury. So they're drawing this line. And like I said earlier, it's kind of set up to where they're going to start destroying or some surprise attack, just like with Israel and Hamas. Kim Jong-un's going to launch artillery all along the South Korean border into South Korea. And then that fires off that. As everything is popping off, they do something like that. That's a scenario that I could see happening. But yeah, they're promising if anybody goes even slightly over, they're going to fire on them and take them out. Reportedly attending the test launch of a new surface-to-air missile on Wednesday, where he told military officials to be prepared for a strike against any South Korean ship that enters North Korea waters from now on. They have also torn down a lot of their unification statues that they had all over the country. There's more video. They actually took down all of the other smaller ones, the smaller statues of all of the statues that kind of stood for the eventual reunification of their countries. They're basically brothers and sisters and cousins and all this. When they split, it was a really tough thing for South and North Koreans because it's like, they're the same blood, same DNA, same everything, just split down the middle on views and beliefs and government. But yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. And then New York City judge fines T-Man, our former president, more than $300 million and bars from running businesses in New York for 3 years. So when they say bars from running businesses, what happens to his hotels and all of his things in New York? Does he have to close them down? Like I'm confused about that. How does that work, Dex?
I'm not sure at this point. I think it's more like running or creating a business. I think his existing businesses probably can stay because it didn't sound like they were dissolving them. He may not be able to run them. He may have to have somebody proxy run it, or he may be able to maintain the ones he has, but he can't start anything new. But look, it's a big deal in the sense, and on the amount that he was hit with. That's a lot of money. But there's going to be an appeal process, and there'll probably be many appeal processes. Who knows how far this will go and work its way up. It was also interesting, and I don't know if it's in this article or not, but there was a video, and I don't think we can play it because it's probably from one of the news agencies and copyrighted, where they took a picture of the judge, who was all laughs and smiles when the cameraman came around to take his picture. He was like, "Look at me and look what I did." At least that's what a lot of people are sort of speculating on that. But this was definitely a big case, and definitely some strange justice, to say the least, with even the shenanigans that went on there, let alone the output of it. Something like $370 million between what he has to pay, his kids have to pay, and I don't know if he's got to come up with the cash or if he's just going to do some sort of bond, like put up some of his properties on a bond and hold it over while he's going through the appeal process. I think that's how it works.
Yeah, he's smirking. He's just so happy to stick it to him. It's like our former pres had a 50% chance that he was going to get screwed over. Whether you like him or hate him, that proves my point. It's like, if you were his judge, would you have done the same thing, or would you have let him off easy? I bet you didn't have a choice if you were the judge, because they'd probably either pay you a crazy amount of money that you couldn't refuse, or who knows, your family would be at risk or something, how things are going right now. But just my opinion. And then a California man was found with 1 million rounds of ammo and 248 illegally owned weapons in his house, state authorities say. First, though, old combat vet, this is funny. To end war, each army places its own armed politicians in front of them and force them to march towards the opposing politicians. I'm sure that would end war pretty quick. That would be pretty awesome. I think they would quickly vote to not go to war. And then Craig Alicious, been a member for 9 months, says, that's great. He is really taking off now. Thanks. Craig Alicious, I know I told him when Omegle shut down, I said he always figures out a way to get around, everything, and he's always changing creatively. I know he'll make it. I mean, he'll be millions of subscribers at some point soon, if he's not already. And then a California man, this guy who ended up having all of this go down. Here's the big question here is, who is he? They at the time of this. Now, Dex, can we update and see if did they release this guy's name? You know, it kind of matters. Like, is this guy like a Joe Schmo, or is this a Joe Dirt guy that's just a collector? Is this somebody who's not supposed to be here? Is this somebody, what is the deal with this? Is he just a collector of old things? Did he have 20 of the same thing? It kind of looks like he might have. Is this arming up for an arsenal? The reason I asked this question is there's a question right now. If there are folks coming in, if an army comes in, would they be able to fight? And how would they? Well, if somebody already inside the country has acquired all of the weapons and things needed, then you could arm people and have them already in the country. There's no question that people have been coming in by the millions. So what's actually happening here? Dex,
No, they're intentionally not releasing the name right now. I've looked and I still don't see anything. I think the one article we're using is probably the most recent. Some of the other ones are a little bit older than that one. But yeah, this could have been a collector. But the thing is, the reason that he got busted, I believe, was because of the automatic weapons, like the machine guns that he had, were specifically outlawed in California. I think you can own them in other places, maybe if you have an FFL or you have them licensed and you have a stamp and whatnot, and you're approved by the federal government to own them. I don't know how the laws are in California. I know they're more stringent there, and I think that's what they had said they got him from. But he also had some grenades they had later said were inert. Had over 1 million rounds of ammunition across many different calibers. And 3,000 large capacity magazines, which I also think that's probably another one of those things in California that's not allowed. I'm sure they have some sort of restrictions on capacity there. And 20 silencers. And by the way, that's another item. I don't know what the laws are in California, but silencers are typically require ATF tax stamps to own. You have
this
to
sounds
register
like
them.
a
Takes extra steps.
a stash house for CIA or something. This sounds like this guy's a secret agent. Like, why haven't they released his name? They haven't released anything. If he's a 6'1", this guy or that guy, they haven't said anything. This seems really, really, really odd. And it's California, of course, too. Like we've talked about. I have a side theory about what's could possibly happen on the West Coast. It's like, even if he was thinking even if he was of the nature, like he thinks things are going to go down, there's going to be a civil conflict, who is he going to give these to? Is he part of a big militia? And he was the guy that's, they were like, hey, will you keep all of these here? And if it comes time, we'll all go to your house and collect them and you go to conflict. Like every kind of weapon. There were snipers in here, it looks like. So, and then automatic weapons. So this isn't like a casual collector. This is a small army. You could have a couple hundred guys with things.
Most of the collectors I know have FFLs. They have them for themselves. If they start owning that many, it's advantageous for them to get their federal firearms license and FFL. And, that gives them more power to, collect things like automatics and stuff like that. So, but I'm sure there are people out there that do it under the covers, so to speak. But if it's a collector, if it's not, I think you're spot on. Like, what were they stashing and who is it and what's behind all of this?
Well, and
who's it for?
It's like, this isn't, and this also doesn't look like he was just doing it because he was going to walk into some place and take them out. You don't need that much. You don't need 1 million. How do you even use up 1 million? Even if you're going to the range every day, like 1 million ammo rounds. Maybe he did believe, when things go down, these are going to be the most valuable thing ever. Think about if SHTF happens, one of these could be, you could trade your house for it. Like, I need this more than I need that. It depends on what he believes. Who was he? Where was he from? Is he, are they purposely leaving it out because he's from somewhere else? Was this guy from, China or Iran or Russia. That's really important at this point. So we'll follow the story. Subscribe if you want an update on it. All right. And it's getting crazy. Before we move on, make sure to go check out My Patriot Supply. Freeze-dried food that lasts 25 years. Pretty much, you don't need more than that. To have food for 25 years is a huge deal. marfooglenews.com/prep. It is very space efficient. When they freeze dry it, it takes out all of the moisture. It freezes it and then essentially takes everything out of it so that when you open it back up in 10 years from now, add back in water or cook with water, and it keeps almost all of its nutrients and it's restored back to almost its original condition. Freeze drying is one of the best ways to preserve food, where it keeps almost all of the nutritional value and all of the flavor. So go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. They have bulk deals. This is one of the most affordable ways besides doing it yourself, because again, if you do it yourself, you'll save a whole lot of money, but you have to spend thousands on a machine. As far as this goes, this is one of the most affordable ways to get bulk food. They have a 3-month plan that always has a giant discount on it. It can be anywhere from $150 to $200. I think the highest it was like $210 or something like that, or 25% off. So check, depending on when you watch this video, marfooglenews.com/prep. You don't need a code. Just use that link, marfooglenews.com/prep. All right. And check out our page as well. You can also, we recommend different kinds of foods as well. There's a slightly more expensive version. There's different brands for different things. It depends on what you're in the market for doing. I believe that this is a great deal as far as affordability goes and bulk. And you know what you're getting with this. All right. And let's see here.
And right now it's 4 weeks is the deal. So those of you that are looking for the small package, and they put the Alexa Pure on there. So go check that out too. Special deal on that.
Yeah, the Alexa.
I don't know how long it'll last. They rotate this all the time for our page.
The Alexa Pure is the air purifier, and they also have
No, the water.
Oh,
one.
okay,
It's
okay.
the water one. Yeah,
Okay.
the water one.
The Breeze is
same name.
Yes. Well, there's the Alexa Pure Pro, which is the water purification system. This one again is a huge, really, really great tool as far as filtering water out. Gets 99% of the stuff out. But nobody ever talks about the air purifier as well. They have the Alexa Pure Breeze. So go check both of them out. marfooglenews.com/prep. All right. And Dex, thank you so much for your service today. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Old Combat Vet, thank you so much. Craig Alicious, thank you so much. It looks like you guys tied for top supporter tonight. Thank you so much. Dex, thank you. And of course, the mods, thank you. Go over to marfooglenews.com/friends. Join us over on the Shoutro if you will. If you won't, again, thank you. Believe in Jesus, Wide Awake and Angry, Sergeant Grizzlies, and everyone else that made it to tonight's show. Have a good one. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It's now time for the Shoutro. It's not an outro, it's a Shoutro. All these people came about his goal, stopping nothing to get with it. Oh, in heaven you can't take what you own. Do you play on or do you fold? All these people came about his goal, stopping nothing to get what they owe. In heaven you can't take what you own. Do you play on or do you fold? All these people came about his goal, stopping nothing to get what they owe. In heaven you can't take what you own. Do you play on or do you fold? All these people came about his goal, stopping nothing to get what they owe.